The ModernJeeper Show, the show about Jeeps, Jeeping, and Jeepers.
Well, hey, Modern Jeepers, it's another episode of the ModernJeeper Show with me, Matson from MetalCloak. And once again, Corey and Jessy are out doing something else. Actually, it's kind of nice. They're on vacation right now. Now, I don't know what vacation is. Most people you know me, I'm always working. But they got 3 days off in between doing Jeep Beach and all the other stuff they're doing and about to hit a whole bunch more CTIs. So if you don't know where they are, follow them on Facebook. Follow this MetalCloak CTI tour. You'll see the next stop, the next stop, the next stop. It's on Instagram. It's on Facebook. And just pay attention to what's happening because they have a bunch of CTI. I think they have like 10 CTI stops coming in just in the next month. And then, of course, there's the Florida Jeep Jam. That's coming up. So they got all kinds of things happening. But they're taking a few days off. In fact, it's so off that I don't even think they have cell signal. Like they're deep into nothingness. But if you do notice, if you're watching this on YouTube, you see that we do have a guest. Once again, I was lucky enough to have somebody come and join me and not leave me here hanging alone. We have Will Fowler of Venture2Roam. Hey, Will, thanks for joining the show.
Hey, I'm so happy to be here, man. I'm sorry the other guys aren't here, but it sounds like they're having a good time.
They are. I think they've actually been pretty happy, like not doing the show for 3 weeks. They're gonna get a refresh. Then maybe I'll take a vacation and let them take it over for a little while.
That seems fair. That seems totally fair.
So Will, Venture2Roam, I'm got your YouTube channel up, 21,000 subscribers, 143 videos. When did you start this? What was the impetus behind all this?
It's all a blur. I think it was about 2 years ago in earnest that I started making videos. And I just, so number one, I love the adventure. I live in a great part of the country. I live in Idaho, which is a blessedly underrated place to live and be outside. Most Idahoans like it, and they like to keep it that way. But it's a playground, and so classic story of going outside, being inspired, and also kind of being a creative soul. So I started putting together a few videos that, if you go back and watch now, are just awful. But that impetus,
that's how they all start.
Yeah, that impetus to like try to capture that story has always been in me, and so it's just been a really fun outlet. And I hope I'm getting better at making videos and telling these stories. And the fun thing is, it's never ending. That quest to explore and to try to capture whatever was happening. It's different every single time, and it's always really fun.
Well, I gotta imagine there's some Idahoans that don't appreciate you because you're promoting so much of what's great about Idaho, and part of the reason why so many of us Californians are leaving the state and moving places like Idaho.
Yeah.
And even those that we don't necessarily want to move to Idaho, right? Like go back home. You don't need to be here. Don't bring your ideology with you.
There is a really vocal minority of people in Idaho who you should not tell them that you're from California. They will not appreciate that. But I received my first death threat via comments the other day, which
wow.
I take when you're creating content, the comment world is always really entertaining. But I figure that that's probably good. I mean, I don't, unless it's an actual threat, then that's not good at all. But like,
so what happened? What happened? What was the video?
I made a 15-second reel on Instagram, and I believe I posted it as a short on YouTube as well, about this really cool trip that we took to what I described as a hidden ghost town in the Idaho mountains. I didn't say any specific locations or GPS coordinates or anything like that. And the video, the reel did really well. Lots of people watching it, liking it, lots of really positive comments. And then as it started to get to a broader and broader audience, then this contingent, it's like it hit the leave us alone circle of people, and they're like, stop posting this, you're ruining Idaho. And this one person was like, it was if they were like, if you do this again, I will find you and I will cut you to pieces. And I was like, I try to reply to all the comments. It's like something I've tried to do. Only recently have I kind of been a little bit more selective. But so I'm just like, I love the trolls. I jump in and I just try to troll them back and in a positive way. And
you don't just post back and go, I know who you are. If you post like this again, I will
yeah,
find you and cut
yeah.
you into pieces.
Not if I find you first. Like,
Right.
it was so like I was like, hey, this is super morbid and a little dangerous. And the person responded like, no, I'm serious. I will find you. And I was like, I think I'm gonna report that one to the authorities.
Oh
So,
man.
but yeah, there are people in Idaho who do not want Idaho to be found, but the secret's out, and a lot of the people who watch my content are from Idaho who want to get out and experience the great state that they live in.
Right.
And the other thing I think about this, because I don't share GPS coordinates, even if I have my Patreon subscribers will ask me for spots, and I generally don't share those spots. Not because I don't believe it. I think people buy maps; they have campgrounds listed on those maps. Like people want to sell their GPS coordinates. I don't really have a massive issue with that. However, I think it's part of the adventure to go find your own. And I think getting directions from a friend is one thing, but just getting a bunch of coordinates and kind of copy and pasting someone else's trip is kind of robbing most people of doing that. And I think when they watch my videos and they figure out where I went, even if they ask me for some tips, which I generally give, they're self-selecting in to the type of adventure that where they're kind of modeling themselves or they're inspired by how we travel. I think the likelihood of having hordes of people pouring into any one location that's been in one of my videos, it has like, maybe 100,000 views on it, is the amount of new people to that area is going to be minimal. And my hope is that they're the people who will actually pick up the trash from the people who were there before them. So that's kind of how I feel about, highlighting areas and sharing them in general.
Yeah, I got it. So, but you're a native.
Yeah, the word native is so like so like laced. I was born in Idaho. Yeah,
Nice.
and I was raised here, and I spent my youth in between Idaho and Eastern Oregon, Ontario, Oregon, which is right on the Snake River. So it's
Right.
Idaho without sales tax.
Nice.
But
that's there's because I have a house in Lincoln City, Oregon, and
oh
we
yeah.
were looking at Idaho. So we have some friends that moved up there. A couple of homesteaders, friends down here. They were homesteading out in the foothills, and they moved up to Idaho, and just and family that had moved out there. And in fact, one of my sales team members, he moved out to Moscow area a
Oh,
couple years ago, and has loved it. He just everybody who loves the area. But so we were thinking about it. We were thinking about Idaho, but how close would, if we did that, we would keep our little house in Lincoln City, and then decided, well, I know, that we could do that, but it would end up being right in that little border town area, and the politics of that area, as I understand, is more Oregon than it is more. Let's just say it's more Portland than it is Idaho. Is that kind of correct?
oh, no. I think that Eastern Oregon is 100% Idaho politics. Yeah, it is. It is. They are trying to be annexed by Idaho,
Really?
because
Oh
there's this
wow.
whole movement called like the Greater Idaho Movement. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's. I think it'll never happen.
Well,
But
it's just like
they have
Southern
way
Oregon
more
wants
in
to be
common
part
because
of the Southern Oregon wants to be the part of the state of Jefferson, right? So we have state of Jefferson, which is Northern California, and
exactly.
Southern Oregon.
Yeah, exact same kind of thing. So like there it's super rural. It's really low population density in Eastern Oregon. And it's very agricultural. And so there's a
Mm,
lot in common with kind of those borders between right on the eastern edge of I would say like middle of the state. Oregon Eastern is really, really aligned with Idaho. But like, politics are so laced with uh landmines.
mm,
There, like Idaho has become a real interesting place that way, especially lately. But the good thing about like overlanding and off-roading and just kind of building up your rig and rig appreciation is that it's like agnostic when it comes to political beliefs. And
mm.
so like you can love a rig, you can have an adventure, and you don't have to worry too much about those things when you're out there.
I got it. Well, definitely. This isn't a politics show, and I've been chastised many a times for getting a little too political, especially during 2020, 2021. So
Yeah.
we can move on to the more fun stuff, which is Jeeps.
Yeah.
So you start this channel, and you already had a Jeep. obviously, when
Mhm.
you started doing this, right? So
Yep.
what is your history of Jeeps?
Oh man, so when I was in college, I had a what was it? A 98 red Jeep Cherokee Classic XJ.
Mm.
And it was my first like nice car at the time. And I didn't know why I liked it. I just liked it. It was square. It was, I don't know, just beefy enough. My previous car before that was like a Honda CRX, like a two-seater kind of hatchback thing. And so like I was like, oh, this feels good. I'm gonna get a SUV and go off road. I never took it off road. But my best friend in the whole world, Chris, also had one of those. So he had one first, and I wanted what he had. So I got my first Jeep. And then my wife Kate and I, we moved away and we're gone from Idaho for about 10 years.
Where'd you go?
And so I spent, I did a couple stints in grad school. We went to Kansas City for 3 years. And then from Kansas City, we moved to New York City for 6 years.
Wow.
Um, yeah, yeah. It was like culture shock going both directions. Like
Mm.
going to New York, it was like, whoa, there's a lot of different people here and it's really different. And then coming back, it was like, whoa, this is very different from what we're used to in New York now. But when we moved back to Boise, um, my best friend Chris had a Jeep Wrangler, and he didn't ever tell me to buy one. But Kate and I wanted to buy like a fun car, like a convertible or something we could have fun in on the weekends. And we kept coming back to Jeep Wranglers because they to JKUs because they were 4-door. You could put stuff in the back of them, but you could also take the top off of them, not really as like an off-road vehicle, just as something that was really cool. So we bought that. And then Chris began um making fun of me, just shaming me in every possible way that I that I had a Jeep Wrangler and I wasn't taking it off-road. And he's the
Jeep
guy
shaming.
exactly. Yeah, yes. Hey, people, if you're out there, it's not okay to Jeep shame. Actually, I think I'm very
Actually,
guilty of that.
I'm sorry, MetalCloak. We support Jeep shaming. I'm sorry.
Yeah, shame away. I hate it.
It's, and we're happy to. We have plenty of solutions, and we have therapy for Jeep shaming. It's okay.
Hi, my
Just give us
name's
a call.
Will, and I'm a Jeep shamer. So he took me off road for the first time, and it was like such an incredible experience. And then he took me overlanding for the first time, where we actually were camping, and my mind was completely blown. That there's this other world that exists
Mm.
beyond the paved roads, just beyond the mountaintops. And I was from then on, I tried it once with Kate and she got hooked and it's been nonstop. So my Jeep is a 2013 JKU Sahara. So I thought a Rubicon was a stupid purchase. Spent a bunch of extra money on stuff that you'll never use. And
Right.
like I put so much money into that Sahara trying to make it a Rubicon since that I will always buy a Rubicon from here on out. So that's what I started with. But I just got a new Jeep in the garage, which is not like the other.
Mm.
Yeah.
What'd you get? What'd you get? What'd you
Yeah,
get?
yeah, yeah. I think it's about 3, maybe 4 weeks old now. It's a Jeep Wrangler Rubicon 392, and
Ooh.
it is it is it is just the best midlife crisis you could possibly ask for. It's so awesome.
You
Yeah.
know, I've heard a lot of people refer to the 392. In fact, one of my business partners, when he got it, he says, I think this is the best. This is what a Jeep should be. This is the best Jeep they've ever made.
Yeah.
Not only from the accoutrements, but just from how it drives and the power band and everything else. It just seems to be a great rig. Do you even have any dirt on it? Like, have you actually driven it in dirt at all yet?
It's got less than 1,000 miles on it right now. So I've been
Mm.
breaking in the engine, although I have taken it off road twice.
Wait,
And
wait. Does that mean you just went through a little dirt trail between two streets, or what? What do you mean by took it off
my
road?
my first time, yeah, that's a great question. My first time taking it off road, I was meeting the guys for a bonfire, and I have this group of guys who get together every now and then. Somebody was like, "I need a bonfire," so we went out to the woods and had a bonfire. And I remember driving it off road, just a little trail. It was just a few whoops on it. Maybe it was a half mile long. That's it. But I remember this moment where I reached down and I pressed the sway bar disconnect button. And this is not a 392 thing. This is a Rubicon thing.
Mm.
And I've never done that before. I have to get out and pull the sway bars. And I was like,
Mm.
oh my God, my life has just changed. And so that was a short one. Then we took it out for a proper shakedown, just on flat dirt roads, nothing too crazy, but we did get it out and get it in 4-wheel drive, or I would say 4 high, because it's
Mm,
always in 4-wheel drive, it's in 4 auto. But I'll tell
right.
you that it's an extreme recon. And the fact that it has 35s and that suspension right off the line with a factory warranty is shocking. It's
Mm,
shockingly good. It's
mm,
way better than my Sahara that I've put a ton of time and effort trying to, put bigger tires on and all that stuff. This thing off the line is incredible. So I'm going to drive it stock for a bit, but I have big plans in terms of the build that I'll do with the
mm,
392.
mm.
And that is going to take all year long, and it's going to be a ton of fun.
Nice, nice. Well, let's see how it evolves. Yeah, when we got the 392 here, we've got well, we have two. One for one of our engineers, our chief engineer drives one, and he's been building it out and working on it. Of course, he's the guy behind our long arm suspension systems and all that stuff. Which actually, if you were listening to this, I think by the time you listen to this, our 392 long arm suspension will be back up on the site. We took it down. We had a couple. It's great when Jeep does things. You go, oh, wait a second, wait, that's different than this one. Why is this different? How come this 392 is different than that 392? Right? How come this year is different that year? There's a new change. They don't as a manufacturer. There's no cheat sheet that goes out to you and goes, hey guys, here's the new vehicle. Here are the changes. By the way, this is just a mid-year change. We decided we're going to put a crash box here, and therefore it affects the frame here. They don't send us those nice little cheat sheets out there. You got to discover it when a customer calls up and says, this ain't working the way you said it would. You're like, oh damn it, what happened?
Yeah.
Or like my favorite is that, hey, so what's the deal with these different diffs? And oh well, Dana's just doing the supply that they have, so they'll put this one in, or maybe they'll put that one in, or maybe they'll put this one in, or maybe they'll put that one. That's just a supply we have, so we're just going to put it in there, right?
Wow.
But this cover doesn't fit that cover. Yeah, it's all fun times. But even the 392s, like the ones we have, our 392 is going to be different than your 392 in subtle little places, and where you go, okay, slightly different. Why did they do it that way?
Yeah.
But just keeps us guessing, keeps us jumping.
Well, and
So
we
you
don't
have
care. Like when we're buying it online, or when we're buying it from a retailer or whatever, we just think, oh, I have a 392. I'm going to buy that. It should fit. And then we're just totally flabbergasted when it doesn't, from
right.
like the consumer perspective. It's like, this doesn't fit. And like, it's so cool. One of the things I love about MetalCloak is that like, there's real people there that will talk to you and be like, oh, you know what? Try this. Or, which 392, when did you buy your 392? Like those kind of qualifying experts that can dig into the problem with you. That you don't get that everywhere. That's pretty cool.
Well, and I'm pretty fortunate, pretty blessed that the guys that are sitting in our sales and customer service area are gearheads and like Jeep geeks for all intent and purposes, right? So they're constantly sitting there going, wait, learning something new, following the forums, looking out there, trying to discover stuff, listening to each other talk, and oh, hey guys, just had this call. Here's something we need to be aware of.
Yeah.
And so that they really absorb that in there, because it's hard. It's hard for me to keep up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I don't even want to take calls anymore because I don't know, if you're not doing it every day. I end up being the guy on the phone like, what are you talking about? Nah,
Yeah.
sorry, never heard of it. That shit, click, bye.
Yeah.
That doesn't
Yeah.
do well. So that's cool. Okay, so you got the 392s, got the big plans on it. Are
Yep.
you gonna, like, when you start doing the videos, you're gonna just expose what your overall plans are? Or are you just gonna do it incrementally? I mean, how are you gonna play the game?
I'm going to do it section by section. So, and that's because I have ideas for what's happening in the future, but I'm going to allow room for that to change. So I kind of have a few phases that I'll do with the build. So I actually have a pile of amazing MetalCloak parts in my garage right now, waiting to go on the 392. And my plan for this first phase is to keep it as stock as possible. So I'm not going to put anything on it that will dramatically change how it handles or how it performs. So really, it's starting with protecting it. So the first thing I'm going to do is protect it and kind of experiment with the undercloak stuff. So first of all, like, it looks so cool. So to have a 392 and to have MetalCloak Under Armor and components underneath is so nice, because gold is the accent color, and so that zinc coated stuff just looks just close enough. It looks really nice. It looks intentional. So I'm gonna do some of that, and then in the summer we'll do some things that will make it fun to drive, like with the doors off and then the top off. So I think we'll do some half doors and things like that, or some aluminum door frames that are just make it a lot of fun. Because if you watch the 392 like release video that happened a few years ago, they've got this real sexy blue 392. They're driving through the desert, doing cookies and stuff. And it's got half doors in some shots. It's got no doors in other shots. And that particular Jeep with no doors on it is like so cool. So anyway, so we'll do that. And then
Nice.
as we get close to the to the late summer, fall, that's when I think I'm going to start really looking at changing the driving components. So that's probably when I will switch to bigger tires. It's got 35s on it now. I think I'll probably go at least 37s. I will put a lift on it. I will look at just all kind of the drivetrain components and work my way through to make it something that is more of a rock landing type of vehicle than I've ever had in the past. So I've been pretty straight overlanding, dirt roads, whoops and washouts and, rocks if they're in the way, but I don't really go searching for super difficult trails. Really, it's been about exploring an area. And so my goal with the 392 build is to have it equipped so that I can do a little bit more of that chasing of difficult trails that also have fun destinations. So, I really want to get the 392 out on the Rubicon Trail. I want to get it to some of the more difficult trails in Idaho, and take it. I'd love to take it like to Sedona. I'd love to take it to Moab and do some of those trails just to, experience driving that way. And I think no matter what rig you have, it makes sense to look at, especially if it's a Jeep, but no matter what model of Jeep you have, it makes a lot of sense to look at doing aftermarket enhancements if you're going to do any of that stuff, especially if you're going to put any amount of weight on your Jeep. You want to have super steady components everywhere. So that's my basic plan, and I'll announce it as we go. But yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. I gotta tell you, man, I gotta tell you that like modifying this Jeep is harder than modifying other Jeeps, because there's something about the 392. It's like, oh, it's just like such a classic, like out of the box. I've been looking at the long arm. Like, do I want to do a long arm? Oh, I don't know if I want to cut anything off the frame, just because you have to remove a bracket, even though it's a bolt on. The MetalCloak's a bolt on. Anyway, so there's a lot of
if I can give a little advice, if you're going to go for a Rocklander, there's no reason to do the long arm. There really isn't. Yeah. I mean, it might be cool for video, or it might be cool for like somebody, but the thing about long arms, and it's a hard thing for us to even do long arms, because for the most part, you get better high speed off-road performance. You're not going to get necessarily more crawling. You're not going to get necessarily better articulation. There are ways that it can be, but unless you're doing a full fuel tank removal and relocation, and you're doing a proper 4-link in the rear, all that, you just don't get a lot out of a long arm for the basic everyday. And again, we're talking about your average 3.5-inch lift. Most people are going for a 3.5-inch lift, that average size. The mid arms are always going to perform. Our mid arms are always going to perform as good as or better than a long arm.
Yeah.
Now you get into other brands, that changes, because they just don't have the power of the Duraflex bushing, or they don't have the geometry set up, or they don't have the certain components that make our bushings perform so well on the road, so well in our off-road and articulation. Long arms on the road, especially in other brands, can help with your on-road performance. If you're just your daily driving performance that you don't get from other control arms, but the technology we have just makes it so that it's a lot of times we talk people out of going long arm because they don't necessarily need it. So when you're going for rock landing, if you're going out there, you want to do a little bit higher lift, you do the DB3 setup in the rear, right? You can do the fronts. Now maybe you do the front long arm, but the rear DB3. But honestly, there's no reason to chop it up if you're going to keep it around 3.5 inches.
If it's my JK, let's chop it. Let's go for it. With the 392, that's the hesitancy. It's like, I really want to think about it. And also because I'm documenting this build, and I didn't really document my last one. I really want to take my time and think through all those decisions and have conversations like this about like what's
Right.
really going to be suited for it. Because number one, I want it to match what we're doing. Number two, because I'm using it as an example of something that other people could do, I want to think through those things, out loud on camera so they can consider those things as well.
Right. Right. So I was looking at your channel. It looks like you had a chance to. Did you drive the Demonator with with
I did.
KC250?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So
What was
Casey's
that
a good
like?
friend. It was, it's like something's wrong. So like when you when you when you drive that Gladiator, it's a Mojave Gladiator, with the Demon, which is 800, I think it's like 840 horsepower, supercharged, massive V8, and you hit the gas, and you're used to like the sound of an engine, or even like the 392 has a really nice sound. Um, but this thing, it sounds like something is exploding. It sounds like it sounds like there's an explosion happening behind you and you need to like get out of the way. And so like that sound and the pure power is like nothing else I've ever experienced. And then the other thing about driving it is that supercharger has this whine to it. It just kind of whines when you hit it. And it kind of sounds like there's like a coyote under the hood, like kind of like howling at you as you go. And so it's like, it's a real different experience, man.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Casey's giddy about it. I didn't get a chance to see him at Easter Jeep Safari. I didn't go out there this year, but
Yeah.
he's been doing a lot with it. But that is quite the build. I mean, just imagine taking that. He didn't get a chance to enjoy the Gladiator as the Gladiator before he
No.
started doing that old change.
Yeah.
But I think the way you're doing it is better. Take it and do that build. It's like Light Bright, right? Light Bright started stock and then they did a little bit. I mean, the first kit they did from us, or the first product they did with us, was the skid plates.
Mhm.
And then the first kit they did was just I think it was our 2.5, might not even have been our 3.5, but our 2.5 inch like true dual rate kit,
Yeah.
right? Which is only a couple of arms, right? And then they experienced that. And then they went to the full game changer. And then they went to the 6-packs. And then they evolved. And
Yeah.
now, of course, Stepchild is completely different than it ever was, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that evolution, I think, is great because you experience it. And I think you appreciate every step,
Yep.
right? I mean, and you're also better with, yeah, I love Casey, but at the same time, he's going to go, he doesn't know what a basic Gladiator can do. Right?
Yeah.
He doesn't have that basic experience.
Yep. So he stopped at my house on the way down to Moab for Easter Jeep Safari. That's when I test drove his rig. We've been friends for a little while, and I got to we just hung out, and we were just talking about the build, and yeah, he knew what he wanted to do before he even purchased the Gladiator. He was like, I'm going to do this, and it's going to be shocking. And I was like, mission accomplished, dude. Total mission accomplished. Yeah.
And I haven't paid fully attention, but has he done a 4-wheel burnout yet?
Well, he's done many burnouts. I don't know if he's done a 4-wheel burnout.
You got to do a 4-wheel burnout, Casey. If you haven't done one, that'll go viral for you just there. Just a 4-wheel burnout of Gladiator. Just lay on it, buddy. Lay on it.
Well, if he hasn't done it, I'm sure he will do it now. He's not opposed to burnouts.
Right. That's cool, man. That's cool. So the 392 is going to be fun. Now, just talking about videos and doing this. I mean, you've obviously been doing it. It looks like you do try to get one a week out. Is that about right?
That's about right. Yeah. So it just kind of depends on what projects I have going on. Some things just take a little bit more time. So about one a week. Sometimes I'll get 2 out a week. Sometimes it'll take me 2 weeks to get one out. So yeah, averages out to about one a week.
And do you focus primarily on YouTube, or do you get a lot of stuff on IG and Facebook, all the social medias, TikTok?
Yeah, I do them all except for TikTok. I really hate TikTok. And it's not because of like who owns the company. It's like, so here's my experience with TikTok. I used to post everywhere. That's the only place I don't really post to anymore. And so I have a reel, and I post it on Instagram, and it gets I don't know, let's say it gets 20,000 views and some comments and people are, okay, that's cool. Post it. And same thing goes on Facebook, get a lot of interaction on Facebook. That's great. Same thing on YouTube. I post it on TikTok and it gets like 3 views and 1 comment that's like somebody giving me the middle finger. It's like such a different environment
Wow.
there. I have like a bunch of videos that I posted to TikTok and they all just fell flat on their face. And I just got a little tired of doing it. So I haven't really posted to TikTok in a while.
So apparently the secret to TikTok is you got to have your video go, your little reel, and then halfway through you got to flash a bikini and then keep going. I mean, literally, I think I would just say in the middle of the Jeep ones, or do a bikini colored Jeep and just like flash it, right? Just that's if you flash a bikini, then you'll have the guy watching it 20 times trying to pause it on the bikini.
Oh, right, of course, yeah. And I'm assuming you mean a female in a bikini, because if it was me in a bikini,
you know what? Sure. There might be people still flashing. I would just you've got the guns. Look, I'm looking at this. You're find this video. You got like you got the picture there, and I'm like there's a guy who works out. I mean, he got the forearms for it.
Yeah, I don't think that would me in a banana hammock on TikTok is probably that's called the banana hammock growth strategy. Yeah.
That's so there's some guys. In fact, I won't mention names, but Jeeper Jamboree over the years has had quite the few guys show up and if you haven't done Jeeper Jamboree, for all of our listeners, Jeepers Jamboree is a party. We're not talking about JJ USA or even Jeep Jamboree. It's Jeepers Jamboree, the granddaddy of them all. It is a party. And if you like to party, it's the great one to be on. It's not the family-friendly event. You go out there, you wheel in, you have 3 days of hanging out by the water, of drinking, of just having a good time, listening to music, eating really well, and then heading out. And in the process of that, there may have been moments where guys walking around who were industry guys, we're talking about like very well-known industry names, who were wearing the banana hammock and nothing else, and like and it's a sight you cannot unsee, especially when they're wearing it like up over the shoulders.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's it. The image is burned into my retinas, and I have not been able to unsee that, and it's probably a nightmare they live with me forever. It was not me. I would not do that to anybody. That would cause you more.
That one's going to come back to get him at some point.
Yeah, you would think, but somehow it just made it more popular. They continue to sell product. I don't, me, I put on a cowboy hat and try to talk like I'm a cowboy selling Ram trucks. That's the extent of my craziness.
Although I have to say that was a great video that you guys launched. It wasn't too long ago, right? And it's like
that was just
spoof.
Yeah, April was Ram month, so we decided to have fun with it, and we're trying to do that more, where like a particular month focuses on a particular product line. It helps us focus as well, because as our product lines have grown, it is harder and harder to take a moment and look back at older product lines too, right? Like the TJ product line, and we'll have TJ month coming up, and it's just going to be all about the TJ, and it's going to be, and then also gets a chance to look back and make sure that the web pages are updated and stuff like that. So we take the time to focus on, the YJ, the CJ, the older platforms, and the newer stuff like the Ram truck, and really just bring awareness to those product lines. But as we grow, it becomes harder and harder to, we're always focused on, what are we focused on? Well, JL, JT, and JK, JL, JT, and JK, JL, JT, and and having to then keep up. And of course, Bronco, and then Toyota, and Ram, and Bronco, and Toyota. So, so it is a constant game. So you got the videos going. You looks like your videos average about 10,000 views. Actually, the last one's just in the last few weeks. You get further back, 83,000 views on Recovery Gear Matters. Well, there's a telltale sign. People love learning.
Yep.
Most beautiful Idahos. Who does your thumbnails? Is that you?
That's me. Yeah, that is. I am
nice.
Thanks, man. I feel like I'm a thumbnail kindergartner. It's like if anybody's starting a YouTube channel, the advice I would give them is like, spend your first 6 months learning how to make really great thumbnails and titles, and then work on the quality of your videos after that. Cause I think that has more impact on who watches your stuff. As crappy as that sounds, really great videos with mediocre thumbnails. And I have many of those, I think. Those videos I think should do better, but no one's clicking on them because I'm not great at that.
Well, it's interesting because, Mr. Beast talks a lot about that. I mean, they would spend days, hours and hours going over thumbnails. And if they couldn't figure out a good thumbnail, they would literally throw out the video.
Yeah.
Like if they couldn't figure out a good thumbnail for it, and when he's talking about an idea for a video with his team and they're thinking about it, one of the things he's thinking is, what would the thumbnail be? And if he can't visualize the thumbnail, they won't do the idea.
Yeah.
Because he'll test and test. I know Casey has done a lot of that too, done a lot of the A/B testing with the thumbnails and just see what works. But they're clean. They're clean. I like Most Beautiful Idahos. That's really nice because you had, you played with it. You got the Idaho behind the mountains, and that's a cool one. Recovery Gear Matters. Obviously, it's a good one just because, well, people like recovery gear, but it shows it just shows what you're doing. So that's awesome. That's awesome. So what is your what's the favorite video that you've ever done?
Oh yeah. So it's on there too. It's the Idaho BDR movie. So I did a video that's called the Idaho Overland movie, and it's not my best performing video, but maybe the second best, but it's relatively new. It's only, I don't know, maybe 6 months old. And it documents a 13-day trip from the southern border in the southern Nevada, Idaho border up to the Canadian border, all on, off-road. And we did that mostly with a friend of mine, Rob from Revere Overland. He's got a channel called Revere Overland. And it was me and my best buddy, Chris, and Rob. And we had people come and going through that trip, but I feel like that's when I started to grow up a little bit as a cinematographer. Just really, when you're on the trail for that long, and you're practicing every single day. And with somebody like Rob, who's more experienced than I am, I just learned a ton. And putting that together, I was so passionate about the trip and so passionate about showing Idaho and finding the stories of Idaho that, I feel like as a storyteller, I really figured some stuff out during that video, and I think I can do better, but that's my favorite one so far for sure.
Awesome. And what was your most unexpected video as far as the views and the response?
Yeah, I have a video. So I love to do collaborations. I love this. I love talking to people. I love doing projects together. And so I reached out to some other channels and I said, hey, let's do a virtual collab. You film 2 or 3 minutes on your favorite piece of kitchen gear, and we'll just throw it together and see what happens. And that video, I don't know how many views it has now, but it's my highest performing video, and it just took off like a rocket. And I thought, what? What's going on here? So then, of course, like everybody who's trying to grow, I started doing a bunch of collabs. And not every collab has done that well, but the collabs are always a lot of fun. I'm doing one right now with 5 other channels where we're doing the worst modifications we've ever done for our rigs.
The worst modifications. That's nice.
Yeah, the dumbest things ever. And it's a ton of fun, man. It's just fun hearing everybody's story.
So yeah, it's interesting because if you sort by popular, which I forgot you could do, you support that. You see that the best camp kitchen gear, 5 takes from 5 overlanders, 536,000 views. Wow.
Yeah.
And then there was the Idaho Overland movie, 409,000 views. That's great. And then it goes down from there. But that's awesome. Wow. Those are cool.
YouTube's been a blast, man. YouTube and social media, it's a really interesting place because as someone who likes to create things, I would be creating things no matter what. But YouTube offers a platform where you can share it in a way that other people might like it as well. And so getting, feedback from the community, watching the community grow a little bit and having those interactions with people that are really invested in your journey or your videos, it's really cool. It opens up a community aspect to what I consider to be like kind of a lone wolf activity. So like we like to go out and get away from people. And YouTube has opened up this community full of people who like to get away from people. And so we share that in common, which is why it's fun to come together at some of those events and things, to meet with like-minded folks. And, I never would have had that without the YouTube channel. And so that to me has been super rewarding.
Well, it is cool. They're not just going out and gaming or whatever. You're actually getting out and doing stuff. I mean, you're showing people what's possible. Obviously, with 2020, you had a lot more of that happening. A lot more people discovering the van life, discovering overlanding, discovering rock landing, and getting out and seeing the world. So I got to ask, because I always ask the question, like, what was your favorite mod? So the question is, what was the worst mod for you?
Worst mod. So the worst mod for me is still there. and it's my I don't think it was like a strategically stupid, but other than like I try to save money, so I bought a switch box, and the switch box is a low end switch box, but I needed one that had 8 switches on it.
Hmm.
So it was like either I'm going to spend $350 on one with 8 switches that could work, or I'm going to spend $1,500 or $1,000 on something that's like, properly wired in and like a S pod or a Red Arc or something like that. So I got this one that was cheap, and I thought it was really strange that the wiring, a lot of times when you wire into the switch relay box, it's got a place for the positive and a place for the negative, and that makes sense. This one has a place for the positive, and then it's like you have to run the negative somewhere else in the Jeep to ground it. So the dumbest thing I ever did was I started wiring it and I started grounding these things, and I realized this was a massive problem and a mistake. And I just decided to see if it would be okay. And lo and behold, folks, it's not okay. It is not okay at all. My lights have gone out as we're driving. Currently my air compressor won't turn on. I mean, there's just so many electrical issues with that switch box. I just need to rip it out and put something else in.
Wow, that's not fun. Yeah, it's kind of like TJs were always notorious because of how they had their grounding done on the front lights. So when somebody would buy our fenders and they put our lights in, you had to not cut off the wires for the original stock turn signal light, side marker light. You have to literally just disconnect it, but you don't want to cut off the wires because suddenly the way it has a circular in the grounding system, it will literally, if you turn on your lights, maybe your windshield wipers will go. It's like it can mess up the entire system just by starting to mess with the wiring, as opposed to simply taking it, disconnecting it, shoving it aside. As opposed, you start cutting up the wires and it starts going crazy. But it's just the way they had the wiring system. This is a TJ, right? Now you got these rigs with so many computers in them yeah. That's
So
why.
I'm a. Oh, go ahead.
No, that's why our JL fenders, when we decided to do those, we decided to do a plug and play system. And
Yep.
there's no cutting of wires. You just unplug and plug our lights in. And chances are nothing else is going to go wrong.
I think there's a couple reasons why Jeeps have issues like that. Number one is because Jeeps are driven differently than most cars. So
Right.
when you're beating the crap out of them, taking them through water and stuff like that, yeah, there's going to be issues. The other thing I think is that they're like, I think, I don't know if this is true or not, I'm just going to say this. They're have the biggest secondary market of any vehicle that's out there. And to keep a stock Jeep, there's like a stigma against having a stock Jeep. And so there's an infinite number of things that you can that you can modify. And there is not really like a quality control board. There's no like certification for like, this is a legit aftermarket modification versus this one will ruin your rig. So I think that because there are so many options out there, people choose stuff, they put them on there, and it's something that they never should have messed with. And you should never mess with the electrical. I mean, switch boxes are one thing, but you should never really mess with that. And you should, like, in my opinion, you should go real lightly on messing with anything with the engine.
That and anything you do, it's one of the interesting points. When you buy a Jeep, we always tend to recommend people buy a stock rig and build it yourself or have somebody build it for you. When you buy a built rig, like, oh, look, that's a pretty cheap price and it's already got everything.
Yeah.
You tend to be buying somebody else's problems.
Yeah.
And it's not worth the headache. It's not worth the effort. Right. And this is coming from a guy who sold rigs that have been built. Right. And you've got to take the time it's better to do it yourself. It may cost more money in the long run, but then you're going to be happy. I also learned from a guy a long time ago, never go cheap on electrical.
Yeah.
Anything you're putting in your rig, I don't care whether it's internal, like spark plugs, or if it's, external, like a switch box, don't go cheap on electrical because it is the one thing that will cause problems. And it's just not worth it. Okay, so I'm looking at your thing. I need to know, because without watching the video, so is that Jetboil Genesis long term? Is that Jetboil? Is it worth it? And I asked the question because when we first did our very first Modern Jeeper adventure, Death Valley, I went down and I got a Coleman clamshell.
Yeah.
And I will say the Coleman clamshell, the very primary problem with it is somebody had this bright idea that they'd make where the actual rack stand, the grill part sets up where you put the pan down, is super high compared to where the flame's at. And so if you don't have a big shield around it, it just blows out and it's hard to get the heat in there. So I have to I had to take a shield from something else I had and put it up so that I can block it off. So it was a bad design but Jeremy Rowan of Outlaw Jeep Adventures in Moab was on the same trip, and he had the jet boil and he enjoyed it. He loved it. But again, it's like mine cost $60. His cost $280, $300, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So I think that my opinion on the JetBoil Genesis is that it is worth it depending on how much it costs, because I've seen like on Amazon the cost really fluctuate based on supply. But for $280, there's a couple things that if you're out overlanding or off-road camping that you will always do. You're always going to eat, right? You need to make dinner. And having something that is super reliable and gives you the ability to make maybe some different things, like not just hot dogs, is really, really nice. So for me, we really enjoy making creative recipes when we're out there. It's just something that we like to do. And and there's something about eating good food out in nature that makes it taste even better. So for us, having that stove that is light, is compact. We can pack it. We have a Jeep, so back storage is a premium, and we have a Jeep with a family of 4 and no trailer, and so that and the materials I don't know how many hundreds of times we've used it now, and it's never failed. Always starts right up. We cook off the back of the Jeep, so we have a tailgate table that acts as a really good windscreen. So we've never had any wind problems. That's the one thing I would say is probably an issue with any like circular design, is that it's really hard to get a windscreen on there. So they have these kind of windscreen, these plastic things that attach to it, and they're really bad. So that's the one drawback. But yeah, for me, I would say the JetBoil Genesis is a good stove to buy. I wouldn't, there's a couple things that you should spend money on and other stuff that you don't have to spend money on. For me, knowing that we're going to make food for our family of 4 and oftentimes for, a group of 8, having that thing is really nice.
So, and I noticed it actually has a grill top and it has some other accessories you have. Now let's go back to you. You said you have a family of 4. How old are your kids?
My son just turned 8 and my daughter's 10.
Okay. And so obviously they go out with you. When you go camping, are they all you guys all like snuggle in the same tent, or do they have the separate tent that they stay in, or how do you guys do it?
Yeah, dude, we all stay in the same rooftop tent. So
wow. Which one do you have?
Right now we're running, it's called a company called Desert Armor, and they say it's a 3 to 4 person tent. When you read 3 to 4 person tent on the tent size rooftop tent, that means it's a 3 person tent. yeah, or 2. And so this one works for us. It's about 70 inches wide, which is just enough space. It probably won't work long term for us. But the reason I got it, number one, I really like US companies, US manufacturing in the US. No tents are really manufactured here, but US based companies. I really love family businesses or working with companies that, where you can like actually meet the founders and talk to them. That's super important to me. And at the time, Desert Armor was one of those companies. And it is one of the only aluminum hard-shelled cantilever style 4-person rooftop tents. And so it was between that and I think Tough Stuff has one called Alpha that had like the Alpha Stealth. And those were all listed as being very, very heavy, like 225 pounds. And so I wanted to get something that was a little bit lighter. And this one was listed at like 160 pounds or something like that. And, hindsight is 2020. I'm not convinced those numbers are correct. I think that in the rooftop tent space, there's a lot of misinformation, not intentional, but the sellers of the tents, be it the actual kind of designers or the, third-party retailers, they take the spec sheets from the manufacturer and that's what they use. A lot of times they don't actually take a look at like how wide the mattress is, how thick it is. I mean, you'll read all the time a 3-inch mattress. That's crap, man. Like rarely will you ever find a rooftop tent that has an actual 3-inch mattress. They're like an inch and a quarter.
It's like a 2x4 is not 2x4, right? It's like it's
exactly.
So and same the mattress. Like, well, that's a 3-inch mattress. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Do you guys now? Okay, so here's little tips and tricks. Do you guys use the stock mattress, or have you found do you put an air mattress in? What do you do?
Yeah, we use a stock mattress. The one that we have is okay. The one that came with this particular tent is okay. And the reason that we do that is because there's two things that are super important to me when we're camping. One is speed of setup and tear down. And so any kind of external mattress that you put in there, air up or not, you're going to have air up time. You're going to have to pack it down, find some place to put it. So for me, I'd rather just get a really nice mattress, even if it's not 3 inches, which I wish it were. But the other thing is storage space. So it's a non-starter for me. It has to be able to hold our bedding in the tent. And so to have anything else up there besides 4 sleeping bags and 6 pillows, dude, and sometimes a blanket, it's all got to fit in that tent. And so I'll sacrifice a little bit of mattress thickness for the ability to keep everything up there, because there's zero place to put that stuff in the Jeep.
Well, and you're young, so your back's not all shot yet. When we did Death Valley recently, I have an iCamper on my Gladiator. I just went to Amazon and I bought a 4-inch thick memory foam.
Yeah.
Now, I was hoping I could put it in there in the entire piece and it would fit, but it wouldn't, because it had the way that the iCamper set up is it has the part that comes down, it has a hard shell up, and the stock mattress is in 2 sections.
Yeah.
So what I was like, okay, so I can't really do that. It's not closing. It's just not going to go well enough. So I figured out that I could put at least the section in the bigger portion, the bigger section with the memory foam, put that in there, took the stock mattress out, and used the stock mattress only in the smaller little foot section. So I could lay my back on the section that was primary there. So it helped my back. And then my legs were just down below in the foot section. But even then, it was kind of funny because I would have to close it down as far as it would go. And then I put straps on the other side of the rack connected to the Gladiator's backpack, put it over and ratchet it closed far enough. Now the iCamper has very little forgiveness. It has very little forgiveness. The gap between the plastic shell and the metal seal is very tiny. So you have to shove all the little extra pieces inside and all the extra window stuff in, and then bring it down and then ratchet it down just enough that I could finally get it and latch it.
Yep.
That's the only way I can do it. And of course, the locking mechanism is weird because you have to have the key in there in order to lock it. Then you pull it out and you do the other side.
Yep. Same.
But it worked. Yeah. It worked. Now, there was a lot of strain on it, but that was the only way I could do it. One of the guys here actually has the larger iCamper, and he uses a mattress that airs up pretty quickly. But yeah, I can't. I tried it. I can't sleep on just the small stock mattress that comes with it.
Yeah, I'll for now. It's working for now. I did look at it the other day. We did a shakedown a week ago, and I slept in it, and I thought, oh, days are numbered on this thing. So maybe one of those blow up mattresses would work. I think, I know my buddy Rob has that. He uses it in his iCamper. They've made one that it is kind of fit to the size of a rooftop tent. So maybe something like that. But yeah, space. You've got a Gladiator, man. I have a Wrangler.
Yeah.
And so I can't use the back seats. Back seats are full of people. So everything has got to be, we have a very, very specific setup where we can pack the Jeep. We can set up camp in 5 to 10 minutes. We can break down in 5 to 10 minutes. And we can still see out the back window through the rearview mirror. So it's really, really specifically thought through that in that way.
Wow, that's incredible, because again, family of 4 sitting in there. Most people that are out there, they're going on they got 2 people, driver, passenger, back seats folded down.
Yep.
All the other equipment's back there. You got a ton of room for storage, but no, trying to lend. Plus, I imagine your kids, they want to take something extra. They got a little bit of something.
iPads, all that's
How you doing clothes for that? So you're essentially packing the way I packed when I hiked the Pacific Crest Trail. You are minimizing.
You're
thinking about this purely as a camping trip. It's if it doesn't fit in the backpack, it doesn't work.
That's so true, man. So that's right. It's a cross between car camping and backpacking. So the way we think of clothes, for instance, because clothes take up a ton of space, is you bring enough clothes for 2.5 days. And if you're out longer, you just find a creek and wash your clothes if you need to, or just be a little bit dirty. And that's an easy trade-off to make, because you're going to get dirty no matter what. When you're out there, you're always dirty. And so, making that compromise is an easy one to make. And then other things are non-compromisables. So Kate wants a blanket, and that So we're going to find room for the blanket. So if we're finding room for the blanket, that like who's leaving their shoes?
Right. You've got to have room for your fridge, right? For your
Yeah.
food. So that takes
Small
up
fridge.
half your trunk.
We have learned to pack our refrigerator. We have a Demonator CF35. It's
Mm.
just about the smallest overlanding type fridge you can get, and we have just learned to pick recipes that that will fit in there. And we know we have about 3 days. We can do 3 days without resupplying. And I've been out with 72 quart fridges and 52 quart fridges, bigger ones. And honestly, most of the time I'm using them, I'm not leveraging all the space that's available. And so with this next build, with the 392, I have a hard time coming off of a 34 or a 35 quart fridge, even though it seems really, really small. The space savings that you get in the rest of the back of the Jeep, to me, seem well worth it. It's a compromise.
Well, again, it's that packing. You're right. And you're also trying to soon you try to pack for order of usage too. If you're not going to put
Absolutely.
day 3 food on the top,
Yeah.
right?
Everything, man. There's like a sequence to everything. And the worst, like this is why shakedowns are so important, because Kate and I hadn't been out in probably 6 weeks together. So we went on a shakedown and we brought the 392, but it was just, we were just driving it. We weren't packing it. And you get out of sequence and it's like, oh no. All right, start over again. It's like, nope, I got to get the key out at this time. I got this box has got to go in first. It's got to face this direction. And when you get that stuff dialed in, it's really great. But when you get out of sequence, it's like, okay, everything's got to come out again, start over again, get it back in there.
That's awesome. Corey and Jessy would talk. I'm sure they would mention it and talk about it because in the Gladiator, they got to the point where it's about a 10 to 15 minute setup. We were at Death Valley in the fall and they're getting it set up. They're good to go. They had this whole routine. You could see this routine. They were just like this perfectly synchronized pair, couple, getting everything out there set up, good to go. I'm still trying to figure out how to get my tent up and and get my kid going because I went with Jack, and they perfectly. But this last trip they did in the spring, they took the Funshine, so they took the JL. Different experience, right? Different setup, everything. They had to relearn everything because they wanted to take the Funshine out to be able to see what it's like and have fun with it. But they figured it out. But it's definitely a routine. Again, they only had 2 people, so they had a lot more room in the back. But it's still very impressive that you're able to do that.
Yeah. It takes practice, but it's a lot of fun. And we go out a lot. A lot of people don't go out as much as we do. They go out a few times a year, and we go out, a few times a month usually. So
Wow.
you just get better at it as you go. I think those things become important.
Has the channel generated revenue for you at all?
Yeah. It's becoming interesting. So I am not a full-time YouTuber yet. My goal is to be a full-time YouTuber, as in my opinion, a very specific way. I'm not gonna say like the right way or the wrong way, but my goal is to generate enough interest through my creative approach to videos and quality information I'm putting out there that I don't have to go seeking like revenue or monetary driven relationships with other organizations. So a lot of my full-time YouTube friends, I spent a lot of time, rightly so, thinking about their business, which is you've got revenue streams. You've got your ad revenue that comes in from YouTube. You've got your affiliate sales that comes in from whatever affiliate relationships you have with Amazon or other manufacturers. And then you've got Patreon. A lot of them have Patreon revenue coming in. And then you've got direct, well, I wouldn't say direct, but sponsorship relationships where brands will pay on a monthly basis or some kind of revenue structure for the creator to represent the brand. So I don't think any of those things are bad. I think they're all really, really good. However, when you're trying to pay your mortgage,
Right.
then you're like, I need to get some money. That becomes more important sometimes than, well, how is this video going to be valuable for my audience? And
Right.
so for as long as possible, my focus is to be squarely focused on value to the viewers and creativity, and try to leverage that in order to create more ad revenue, and take my time, go really, really slow with relationships with brands and organizations that are really, really like win-win-win situations. So, for example, I think I know, I hope we talk about this. The relationship that has just started between my channel Venture2Roam and MetalCloak is one that is exactly what I'm talking about. So I had some conversations with folks at MetalCloak. We seemed really, really aligned. One of the things I loved hearing was the ethos that MetalCloak likes to turn strangers into friends and friends into customers. And that relationship with like thinking about your customer that way, to me, is so, so important, because it's not actually that common. You think that, like, you hear that and you're like, well, yeah, that makes sense. Everybody should do that. But that's not actually the case, because that, it's a culture that it exists there. And I've experienced that firsthand. And so it's a lot easier to have a longer term relationship with an organization like that than it is to say, okay, send me a fridge and I'll put an affiliate code in my video and I'll tell everyone how great it is, and maybe I'll make some bucks on the side. So that's what I'm trying to avoid. And I think MetalCloak is a good example of what I'm trying to build.
Well, we appreciate that. Yeah, that ethos is. In fact, I had a meeting with my guys every Friday. We sit down and have a little sales meeting about what happened during the week and what's going to come up next week, all that good stuff. And this last week, we focused on what is the primary product that we're trying to achieve as a sales team, as a sales and customer service team. And it is really the first step of it, because that's the hardest part. Turning a stranger into a friend. That's the hardest part. That's the part that is skipped the most, right?
Mm.
People show up and they want to turn a stranger into a customer. And that's great. You can turn a stranger into a customer every day. And anybody can go out there and go online and go to Target and they buy something, and Target just turned a stranger into a customer.
Yep.
But if you can take the time to turn a stranger into a friend, you'll have a customer for life. And that's what we want. I don't just want to sell product. I could very easily just sell product. I could start selling product through all the distribution channels and the wholesales and the WDs and it used to be Transamerica was a great place to go. Well, Transamerica's gone now.
Right.
But it's easy to sell product. It's much harder to create a community around
Yep.
those products. And
Yep.
if you can make a community around your channel, right, there was I think you've achieved this, but there was, for those starting out YouTube channels, I've always heard that you got to get your first true 1,000 fans.
Mm-hmm.
And fans is just another way of saying friends, right? You true 1,000 friends, people that are listening to you, the people that care about you, people that want to see you succeed, people that really want to know your story. That's true with MetalCloak. That was the goal: get to that first point where we had just those customers that really were not just sold by us for the product, but took the time to learn and decide that that was the product they really wanted.
Yep.
And so it just evolved from there. So I appreciate you mentioning that.
Yeah, well, so if you don't do that, then you're only as good as your feature list compared to somebody else's feature list.
Right.
All that stuff that you put in, it's like all the heart and soul I put into my videos, which for me, I put in a lot. My feedback groups, or if you're listening to this, you all know this. I put a lot of heart in, sometimes too much, into the videos. And same thing with R&D in your company and all that stuff. You put all that hard work into it, and it negates that hard work if you're just selling off of a feature list. So really, this is why I feel really aligned. And I want to bring this up because it's really exciting to me, and it really speaks to, I think, the relationship that we're building together, which is we met. We were like, I was like, yes, you guys fit the bill perfectly. I would love to work with you. And you guys were like, well, we're looking for up and coming YouTube channels, because I only have 20. I'm a speck of dust in the YouTube universe, but I'm up and coming, growing, trying to do something new and different. And so we kind of went through, okay, well, what might we like to do together? And I had this idea. I pitched you guys on this idea around surprising my best friend in the whole world, who's the reason I have a Jeep, who's the reason I got into overlanding and
This is Chris.
This is Chris. Yeah.
Right.
I pitched you guys on the idea of, hey, I know this might seem a little bit weird, but what if you gave me, or essentially gave Chris a new suspension that we could surprise him with on his birthday? And And then we had all the other list
But
of
there
things
was,
that I had.
but there was a reason why that, and it's like, and I just want to kind of point out that there was a reason why it made sense,
Mhm.
and the video is going to kind of cover that. But for those you're going, well, I'm just going to call it MetalCloak and try to get something free for my
Yeah,
brand.
yeah.
Like,
Fair.
no, it just, first off, we're always into creative ways of marketing, right? We always want to creative ways of things. And we spend very, very little money on traditional marketing. And so that's why we've kind of evolved into the YouTube channels, and we're experimenting with the influencer world and that. But your pitch, there was something specific, and I'm going to leave that as a hanging. You guys can figure it when you watch the video, you'll learn it. But I
Yeah.
keep the mystery there. But there was something specific that happened with Chris that had to do with MetalCloak, that it just perfectly made sense that this was the thing we should do.
Yeah. And I gotta say, so I filmed it this weekend. Past weekend was his birthday, and we did the surprise, and he had no idea. And me being a super nerd, and Kate, also a nerd, but maybe she tolerates me. We rehearsed it so many
Wow.
times, like where the camera's going to be, how we capture it. We had a whole game plan. We set up our driveway like his driveway, because we wanted to. There was two things that were super important to us. One, that it was actually a surprise to
Mm.
Chris, because we've been working on this for months, and his wife knows. At some point, his kids knew. Some of our friends knew.
Wow.
So it was like, okay, has he caught on yet? I really wanted it to be a true surprise. And two, that we actually captured the surprise. And so basically, Kate and I walked through this kind of camera plan, and the default was always just keep the camera on Chris's face. That's what we want. We want Chris's
Have
face
to
on camera.
capture that. You have to capture
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
my face is not nearly as important. And it turns out that I had 7 cameras running the whole time, so we had everything kind of set up.
That's
And
awesome.
so like we definitely captured it, and now it's up to me to kind of edit it out and make sure that it tells a story. But there was this inciting incident with MetalCloak that was it was such a great reason, good tie-in, and also the perfect way to dupe him into thinking it was something different than it really was. It's like,
Right.
okay, because I told him
And
I was coming over with the cameras. I was like, I got to do
m
this thing, MetalCloaks, just little things, and be no big deal. And then wham.
well, and it's, Mike sent over the piece that you sent to him. He sent that to
Oh,
me, last night. So I saw the little rough thrown together, and that was awesome. And
okay.
guys, obviously the reaction was great. It was genuine. He was blown away. I can't wait to see the final product.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. So,
but that again, that's the kind of relationship we like, because you're doing something. And this is what was cool about it for me. And listeners, pay attention to this. He wasn't calling us up and saying, I want a suspension for myself because I am doing a build for me. I just got a 392. Send me a suspension, and I'm going to go ahead and put it up, and I will post it on YouTube. And no. I have a buddy, my best friend, and I want to do something for him. I mean, honestly, if he said I was doing this for me, it probably wouldn't have had been a different answer.
yeah.
But I'm doing this for my friend, and that is so cool, because
Yeah.
he was it was something he was going to capture, and I just thought that was the greatest thing, because I would honestly never had that before. Because yes, we have donated for like veterans builds and organizations doing giveaways and all that kind of stuff. That's fine, but the fact that this was a focus on making your friend, and honestly, what you wanted, the goal of it probably was that massive smile on his face, and
Yeah.
that had to been the greatest joy for you.
Yeah, which went on for hours and hours and hours and hours after we turned the cameras off. Yeah, so you have definitely turned. I wouldn't say he was a stranger, but you have definitely turned Chris into a lifelong advocate, and me, right? In that, like, it's way, way, way better to give that
Yeah.
than to get it. It feels so good, because like not everyone is in the same circumstance. People have these Jeeps that are their ways in which they can get away from their daily grind, their daily life, whatever it is that they have to do on a daily basis, and they can get in their Jeep and they can go do something that they love. They can go experience something that they love that's different, sometimes disconnected from the wired world, right? And but but not everyone is making, $600,000 a year and can just afford to do whatever they want with their rig, because let's face it, it's really expensive to make a rig that's capable if you're doing it the right way. And
Right.
so, here's a guy who's on a teacher's salary, and the fact that we could do this just completely blew his mind out of the universe. And
What grade does he teach?
he's an elementary school counselor,
Oh,
and
wow.
his wife is a fifth
That
grade.
is not a forgiving job.
No, no.
And
Yeah,
if he was at my son's elementary school, he would be counseling one of my kids, my first grader, who's been suspended 4 times this year
exactly.
in first grade. Yeah. So, I'm hats off to him.
Cheers, Chris. Yeah, there's no question in my mind the dude deserves to have something good fall his way. So in any case, that's why it's so fun to see, just to see like this really super meaningful for him gift. And there's a bunch of backstory that I'm working on right now that it's hard for me to get through with dry eyes, because it's like, here's the guy, here's the backstory, here's what happened with his previous Jeep. Here's the reason he's got this, where he's really attached to this current 2014 Rubicon, and why it's really hard for him to, to get rid of it, and why he wants to drive it for as long as possible. And this gift, this thing that we did together, is going to give him like a future in that Jeep that was really hard for him to figure out before, because he's got 80,000 miles on his current suspension. And it's like, he just bought himself another 80,000 miles, and not only 80,000 miles, but like quality. He's got room for 37s now. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. I could go on and on and on, but
That's awesome.
I'm clearly super excited about it, and I'm editing the video like right now.
When should we see it? When's it going to land?
I'm hoping for this weekend. Like, I'm really hoping I try to post on the weekends, but it'll be out. I don't know when this podcast will air, but it'll be out.
This will be up Thursday morning. So every Thursday. So this Thursday we are recording it on the 2nd. So it should be up on the 4th, and then that weekend. So pay attention to it. We will link, of course, to your channel in our show notes, and looking forward to that video. Wow, I'm telling you that it's going to be interesting. It's going to be exciting. And again, I've never seen anything like this before, so it should be fun.
Very cool.
And looking forward. In fact, I'm looking for, maybe what we can do is we'll do a follow up in a month or two after it's been put on, and actually get you and Chris on the show.
Oh yeah, he'd love that. He would love
just
that.
Have him chat about it, just to relive the moment, because I'd really like to see what was going through his head and when that happened, and just the thoughts. Because looking at his face was just was blown away. Away. Finally, like my kids, when it's like, oh my God, I just got a new Hot Wheel.
Yeah. He was in disbelief. All that, it was great.
That's great. So, okay. So the future for you, I mean, you're building this channel. So what do you do for a living right now? What's your day job?
So I run operations for a statewide network of business consultants that work with Idaho businesses at no cost to them. So this is why I love business, and I love working with local U.S. companies. It's in my blood. So that's what I do now. And my goal is to, this started as a creative outlet for me. My goal is to make it something that I can do full time, because honestly, it's all I think about. Going on adventures, awesome. Making videos. It's, you can't really control what you're compelled to do in life. And when that thing hits, and there's an opportunity to turn it into something that, you can do it full time. To me, that, it's super, super exciting. So I've got a little bit longer road, I think, to run down, but I'm definitely making progress on it.
That's awesome. Well, that's great. Well, and the fact that you guys are taking your family out 2-3, I mean, this is going to shape them for years to come. And, I feel somewhat, I feel a bit shamed, just because, here I'm in the industry and stuff, and my kids and I have hardly done any camping. And I grew up camping. My dad, no matter what, I mean, shoot, we didn't have a 4x4. We had a 1965 Cadillac Coupe de Ville, and yes, with a old wooden trailer that had wooden spokes on it. It was a fantastic old trailer. Between the trunk on that Cadillac and the trailer, we had everything we needed for camping. And no matter what, we would go to the redwoods or we'd go someplace, and it was just it was one of these things where it was like, okay, we're heading out. We're going camping. This is what we're going to do. All right. It might be spam and bread, but we're going camping. Right. And but the experiences of doing that, they shape you. And I hats off to you as a parent for taking your kids out and doing this. And it's just, it really is going to make them, it's just, I don't know. It's an incredible thing for kids to be able to do.
Thanks, man. My goal is that they know what a connection to the natural world feels like, which is becoming rarer and rarer in our current world. And so, whether or not they choose to act on that is up to them. But I at least want them to know what it feels like, and then they can make their own future.
Do you have rules and restrictions on tech when you go on these trips?
So, we used to. I used to say like no electronics, because that's kind of what we do. Kate and I. That's one of the reasons we like we don't have Starlink. We didn't get Starlink on purpose because we don't really want to be connected out there.
Right.
But as the kids get older, there are certain times where technology is really, really important. So like if you're driving down a really sketchy road, it's going to take a really long time, and you don't want your kids like freaking out. Sometimes it's good that they have a digital activity, and we use technology also early in the mornings and late at night with the kids. So like, putting a story on or something on an iPad that helps them go to sleep in the tent, or when they wake up really early sometimes, and like not everyone else wants to get up early. Sometimes it's nice to have a piece of technology, but it's pretty limited. It's pretty relegated to those things. But yeah, I mean, we're modern day parents, and we can't deny the fact that the entire world is addicted to screens.
Right. Yeah. It's a challenge I have with my kiddos. Right now, their pads are put away. Whenever we do road trips, the pads come out and it occupies them for those 8-9 hours. It takes 9 hours for us to get from here up to our house in Lincoln City.
Yeah.
What are you going to do for that period of time? Right. And then they have it for the period of time up there, but you still want to take them sometimes and take them away and just say, okay, stop, look around you. Stop. Okay. Like I just saw 2 cows. Wait, where? Well, if you didn't have your head down on the pad, you'd have seen the cows that I just,
I have those exact same words in my car.
Yeah,
exact same.
Yeah. You missed it. Go back. No.
Nope.
It's passed you by. The world's passed you by. Well, hey, it has been awesome, and I truly appreciate you being a part of the show. There's so much more we could talk about, and of course, I just have an endless number of questions about YouTube, about how that's all going about your future. But I just really appreciate you taking the time to be on the show. We're looking forward to this video from Chris, and really, hopefully, and for all of our listeners out there, I think Corey and Jessy will be back next week. I don't know. They might have just decided that they're happier running around instead of trying to get into an Arby's parking lot and recording a video in the middle of no place. But hopefully we'll get them back next week. They do have a lot going on. Follow them out there at like I said at Facebook on MetalCloak's CTI tour, the Modern Jeeper page, also on Instagram at CTI_tour. So you can see where they're at, where they're going, what they're doing. I think our Twitter channel as well. We have MetalCloak CTI Tour on the Twitter now. Now that we're all back on Twitter, and there's just a whole slew of places you can see where they're going to be, what job shops are going to be, because this is the big thing this year, guys. We're going out and not just doing major events, but we're doing our top jobbers in the country. Our gold level jobbers are all hosting trips, so hosting CTI events. So we just got to keep it watching. I think the next one is up in Jacksonville, Florida, over at I think the shop is, well, I'm gonna have to look this up now that I brought it out of my mouth. But it's what's this one? I'm looking up there on maps. MetalCloak.com, guys, by the way, you can find our map, installer map. I'm going to right now and trying to remember what the name of the shop is that I was about to mention, which now I feel bad about because it is there. Where is he at? Overbuilt Customs. I kept wanting to say Overland. I got Overland on my brain, but Overbuilt Customs. There will be a CTI stop there coming up here in the next few days. If you're in Jacksonville, if you missed it down at Jeep Beach. Otherwise, for all of our listeners out there, truly appreciate it. Now, for you, Will, how do people find you outside of obviously your YouTube channel and Instagram? Is that how you prefer people to get a hold of you?
Yeah, Instagram. My handle's Venture2Roam. Venture, the number 2, ROAM. You can find that on Instagram, on Facebook. You can find it on YouTube. Venture2Roam.com is our website. And so you can find me any of those places. And if you want to reach out, you can always comment on a video, and I still respond to almost every single video unless it's like inappropriate. DM me on Instagram. Don't be inappropriate. Or if you do, at least make sure it's funny. If it's inappropriate, like be funny. That's okay.
Yeah, don't be dumb.
But you can DM me on Instagram, and I try to respond to every single one of those as well.
Well, that's awesome. Well, guys, appreciate all of you joining us. Modern Jeepers, we'll see you on the trails.